I'm 39 years old and I've been riding motorcycles for 34 years. When I was 5 years old, my uncle put me on his 1981 Honda Z50, which set me on a path that would ignite a lifetime passion for motorcycles. Much to my mother's dismay, when I was 5 years old, I also crashed my first motorcycle, a 1981 Honda Z50, and I had to go to the hospital to get the gravel cleaned out. It was the 1980s though, so that was just how we rolled back then. Anyway, this is going to be part one of a 3-part series of videos about my motorcycles. I'll be going in reverse order of acquisition, so today's episode is going to be about my 2008 Yamaha WR250R. The next episode will be about my 2018 Honda CB650F, and the final episode will be about my 1986 Honda Fat Cat TR200. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel because you're not going to want to miss that last one. Now, I purchased this WR250R earlier this year to do essentially two things. First, I wanted a motorcycle that I could safely ride during the in-between seasons. I live in eastern Quebec where it's legal to ride on the streets from March 16th to December 1st, but it doesn't mean it's safe to ride any bike on the streets during those dates. Before May, there's a lot of gravel and some snow or ice patches on the streets, so riding a sports bike with slick tires during that time can be hazardous. Kinda makes sense that you want to get a bike with larger wheels and more aggressive tires to deal with these conditions. The second reason was I wanted a dual sport bike that I could ride on the streets to get to the trails, go off-road, and then ride back home without having to trailer it around. With those sets of criteria, a lot of people would have probably gone for an adventure bike, but to me those are just too big of a compromise both on and off-road. ADV bikes will never be as capable off-road as a dirt bike, and they'll never be as fun on the streets as sports naked, so I much prefer having two bikes rather than one that does nothing well. Anyway, when I started shopping for this bike, I was pretty much set on getting a Honda CRF 250L Rally. I knew I wanted to buy a used, reliable, and cheap bike because I really wanted to make sure it'd be something that I could flip easily and at a minimal loss if I didn't like it. Since I already owned two other Hondas at that point in time, my mind was pretty much made up that I was a Honda guy and I wasn't really looking at other brands or options. But then on January 22nd, 2025, one of my favorite YouTube channels released a video that would throw the proverbial wrench into my plan. Fortnite released a video praising the Yamaha WR250R as the ultimate dual sports bike, and after watching that video, I was completely sold. I loved the powerful, reliable, high-revving engine. I loved the adjustable suspension. I loved the lightweight. I loved the look. That was going to have to be the one. I was also scared shitless by the 36.6-inch seat height. Even though I'm a big guy, 6 feet tall, 215 pounds, I also have a very short in-seat, only 32 inches. If you're any good at math, you'll notice that 36.6 minus 32 is 4.6 inches of seat height that I have to make up for. Having owned a KLR in the past and having hated how tall that bike was on the trails, I was really worried about the WR250R. Over the next few weeks, I watched countless other WR videos on YouTube, and the more I watched, the more I fell in love with the bike. People all over the internet just seemed to love the bike, and I comforted myself over the tall seat height by watching videos of people lowering the damn thing to under 34 inches. And then one day, as I was scouring Facebook Marketplace, I finally found the perfect specimen. A 2008 Yamaha WR250R with 26,000 kilometers on the clock for only 4,000 Canadian dollars. It had basically all the mods I had decided I wanted, with very few that I didn't. So I set up a time and place with the owner, and the second I sat on that bike, I was completely in love. All my worries about the seat height immediately vanished. Here's the thing no one tells you about seat height. It's just a number, and it's not as significant as you may think. It's true, the WR250R is a tall bike, much taller than a KLR on paper, but it's also incredibly light and narrow, so it doesn't feel like it. I took it on a short test drive in the snow, and I wasn't intimidated by it for 1 second. It was the one. I paid the owner, signed the papers, and left with my brand new to me 2008 WR250. So as I said, the bike came with a lot of mods I was really happy about. Had a GYTR power tuner with a gutted out muffler. It had a set of flatline aluminum skid plate and radiator guard, a Sandman case cover, a DRC tail tidy kit with LED blinkers, a bunch of Zeta parts like handguards, levers, larger foot pegs, and even a magnetic drain plug bolt. Had a fairly straight Pro Taper handlebar, some very low 1351 gearing, which I'll talk a little bit more later in the video. It also had a bunch of parts from a 2018 WR450F like the front fender, the LED headlight, and the brakes. It had 90/10 Kenda Trackmaster 2 tires, which is the profile I was looking for. Oh, and has some real nice heated grips and a radiator cap with a 10 gauge in it. All in all, the build was pretty much everything I ever wanted, and then some. I did of course have to do a bit of modding myself to make the bike 100% mine. So the first thing I noticed with this setup was that the speedo was completely off, which is to be expected with this kind of gearing. So I got the 12 o'clock lap speedo DRD to fix that. I ended up applying 20.5% correction, which just shows how off the speedo was. Incidentally, it also tells me this bike probably had closer to 20,000 kilometers on the clock when I got it, but that's neither here or there. Then I added a set of LED pod lights for better lighting in the dark. I didn't go all out for this. There was a set of no-name pod lights on sale at Canadian Tire for 20 bucks, and I ended up getting a handlebar mounted switch off Amazon for them. I also had a set of double take adventure mirrors for my KLR that ended up fitting as direct replacements. The bike had been modified to fit a kind of leather pouch on the side where the helmet lock used to be, but I really didn't like that it wasn't airtight and that all the dirt and grime would get into it, so I ended up fitting a Nanook 904 case to the already modified rear rack, which I loaded with a toolkit, tire pump, and some emergency rations. I also fitted my old MGO removable travel case to the back for ample storage. The support plate doesn't look the best, but it's practical and I can fit a week's worth of groceries in there, so all in all it's pretty functional. The old chain guard was broken off, so I got an aluminum replacement off AliExpress and had a new bracket welded on. Initially I tried to use JB Weld for it, but that lasted for about a month. And with that, the Yamaha was no longer a simple WR250R, it was my WR250R. I absolutely love this bike. There's nothing I could tell you about its engine, its suspension, or any of the regular review items that hasn't already been said 1,000 times here on YouTube, so I won't even try. What I can say is this bike is so much more than the sum of its part or the aggregate of its review scores. When I ride it on the street, I feel like fucking Superman. It's tall, it's loud, it's unapologetic. It's light and nimble and somehow still feels sure-footed and planted. It turns heads and makes children cheers for wheelie while their disapproving mothers weep. In the trails, it feels like a tank that nothing will stop. It challenges me to ride places I would never dare to go on any other dual sport. The low gearing pardons my lack of skills and confidently allows me to walk the bike when I don't feel safe. So even if I can't quite flat-foot it, I never get the sense that the 36.6-inch seat height that once upon a time scared me so much is going to buck me off the bike. The rare occasions that I do drop it, the thing is well armored so it can take it well, and it's light enough that I can pick it up with one hand. I used to be afraid of dropping bikes. My WR taught me to embrace it. So quick story time. The first time I was riding one of my private trails, I rode over a fallen tree. The second the front wheel went over that tree, it got dislodged from whatever it was caught on, and it lifted me and the bike in the air about 50 centimeters off the ground. With my feet up in the air, I was balancing the bike on its skid plate, and I knew the only way forward was down. So I turned off the bike and initiated the motion to get off, and sure enough, the whole thing went down. I remember barely making it on my feet in the mud, watching the bike fall, and then losing my balance and falling on top of it, and just laughing like an idiot alone in my woods, having been defeated by a stupid birch tree. That's just the magic of the WR250, and it's not something you can really explain. You have to ride it to understand. Anyway, having ridden this bike throughout the spring, summer, and now into the fall, there are a couple things I learned and I'm planning to address next year. First, I'm going to get a set of Supermoto wheels with some Shinko 705 tires for the in-between seasons. I burned through a set of 90-10 tires in the month and a half that I was using this bike on the streets, and I could just go with 50-50 tires on the stock wheels, but the handling will be so much more engaging with 17s, and it'll make swapping tires and gearing much easier too. I'll probably put a 40T sprocket on the Supermoto wheels, and when I take my CB650 out in May, I'll swap the off-road wheels back on, and that'll be a quick job. Speaking of tires, this year I tried the goated Pirelli MT21/Dunlop D606 combo, and honestly at my skill level I really couldn't tell a difference with the Candas that the bike had come with. Considering they were a third of the price, once I finish burning through these quality tires, I'll probably just go back to Candas. And that will be that for this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed this new format I'm trying out. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and I'll see you in part 2.